Now, Martin Bashir had some fascinating words to say about Sarah Palin. It's because of some outrageous comments that Sarah Palin had made. Bashir might have one-upped her in outrageous comments, but first let's give you the context. Sarah Palin was talking about the deficit, and she made a bit of an outrageous analogy. Let's watch.
Our free stuff today is being paid for by taking money from our children and borrowing from China. When that note comes due, and this isn't racist, so yeah, try it anyway. This isn't racist, but it's going to be like slavery when that note is due.
So, you know that you're going to have significant issues when someone has to say in a sentence, this isn't racist, twice. Okay, all right. Now, deficit's a problem, okay, whether it's the same problem as kidnapping, enslaving, torturing, raping, etc., a whole set of people for over 100 years. Seems a bit of a dubious analogy. Jake Tapper in another interview asked her, hey, you sure you're comfortable with that? She's like, well, I'm not politically correct, but I'm willing to say it. Well, you're also not correct, period. Okay? It's nothing like slavery. Now, if you had said, look, I know it's an extreme analogy, but it's just an analogy, that would be different. But no, she stuck to her guns. So Martin Bashir was understandably upset by this. But he might have gone a tad too far here. Let's watch.
Thistlewood was the son of a tenant farmer who arrived on the island of Jamaica in April 1750 and assumed the position of overseer at a major plantation. In 1756, he records that a slave named Darby catched eating canes, had him well flogged and pickled, then made Hector, another slave, shit in his mouth. This became known as Darby's dose, a punishment invented by Thistlewood that spoke only of the slave owner's savage and inhumanity. When Mrs. Palin invokes slavery, she doesn't just prove her rank ignorance, she confirms that if anyone truly qualified for a dose of discipline from Thomas Thistlewood, then she would be the outstanding candidate.
No, you didn't hear that wrong. You get past the English accent, and he just said that someone should shit in her mouth. That's amazing. Or as Anna would say, amazeballs. So that didn't go over well with folks. And you know that if you work at MSNBC at some point, you're going to have to come out there and do an apology. So here was Bashir's apology.
Tell me how my ass tastes. Okay. Tell me how my ass tastes. Okay, everybody, tell me how my ass tastes.
Perhaps that wasn't Bashir. Here we go. Here's his real apology.
On this broadcast, I made some comments which were deeply offensive and directed at Governor Sarah Palin. I wanted to take this opportunity to say sorry to Mrs. Palin and to also offer an unreserved apology to her friends and family, her supporters, our viewers, and anyone who may have heard what I said. My words were wholly unacceptable. They were neither accurate nor fair. They were unworthy of anyone who would claim to have an interest in politics, and they have brought shame upon my friends and colleagues at this network. But if I could add something to the public record, it would be this: that I deeply regret what I said, and that I have learned a sober lesson in these last few days. That the politics of vitriol and destruction is a miserable place to be and a miserable person to become. And I promise that I will take the opportunity to learn from this experience. My hope is that it will renew in me a spirit of humility and humanity that looks for the good and that builds upon the great things that this country has to offer to all of us, regardless of our political persuasion. This will be my guiding light and compass in the days ahead.
I've learned a sober lesson here. You should really not try to shit in Sarah Palin's mouth. Now, the reason they have to do these apologies is what he said in the middle there. I have brought shame upon my friends and colleagues here. In other words, they were embarrassed at what he said, and they said, oh, you better apologize for that, otherwise that's on us, right? Now, look, he's right in pointing out the horrors of slavery, and it's not an analogy that should be made lightly. Did he go a little too far with that, saying that she deserved the same? Probably so. I have to confess that I was amused by the whole episode, his first point and his apology. Those apologies are always great.
I am so sorry. I deeply regret everything I have ever said. In fact, you should go ahead and shit in my unworthy mouth.